Welcome back to the Speaking and Communicating podcast. I'm your host, Roberta Ndlela. If you are looking to improve your communication skills, both professionally and personally, this is the podcast you should be tuning into. Communication and soft skills are crucial for your career growth and leadership development. And by the end of this episode, please log on to Apple and Spotify and leave us a rating and a review. Now let's get communicating with our guest today, joining us from Wisconsin, the state that I call cheese. Dr. Melanie Gray is a registered nurse, educator, and is an expert in trauma-informed leadership. She's here to help us heal from burnout and to live whole, holistic lives. And before I go any further, please welcome her to the show. Hi, Dr. Gray.
Hey, Roberta, thank you for that wonderful introduction and for having me on your show. I'm so grateful.
You are most welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm excited for our conversation as well. But before we go any further, you actually started to become, and you did become a registered nurse. How did you then transition to now helping leaders and workplaces with their wellness?
Well, Roberta, that I've been a nurse a long time, like over 25 years. That could be a very long answer, but I'm going to give you the helicopter version.
Oh, please do.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
so
You're the
I
king.
have been a nurse. I have my background, my clinical backgrounds in um, critical care, cardiac. Also I have over 20 years of experience in higher ed. But really, through my years of leadership and being involved in nurse governance, I just I'm always that person I think had a sign on their forehead that said, "Tell me all of your business." And I always was able to foster, and people like talking to me.
I love
And
that.
so during COVID, really, when the world was going through so much trauma, my leader said, Melanie, you people like talking to you and you're really good. Our younger nurses are really struggling. I mean, I'm 29 for the third time, but comparatively. um, and so can you support them? And so that really made me uh, focus more intentionally on the impact of historical and multi-generational trauma on workplace and behavior because the workplace has changed since COVID. And there are different expectations that workers have, employees have, and that I believe that employers have to have a different mindset too if they're going to engage and retain top talent in a healthy and meaningful way. So COVID drove it, but throughout my career, I've noticed people struggling
Hmm.
and they would tell me, and so I would kind of coach them, and then it became more formalized since COVID.
Speaking of COVID, especially being in the healthcare sector, I cannot fathom what you and all the healthcare professionals were going through during that period.
It was really in the beginning. So again, I've been a nurse a long time, Roberta. So I had come through when HIV was first identified, how afraid people were of that. I've been through H1N1, monkeypox, bird flu. I said H1N1. I mean, I've been through a lot of things. So I was prepared to pivot. I was not prepared so I felt pretty resilient, but I wasn't prepared for seeing people that I would admit bring into the building in the morning cold at 11 o'clock a.m. cold and their heart stop and some people not even make it by 3 p.m. And I had just seen them alert and looking like me. So it was very scary, but what I learned, what was really impressive with how the world came together. We'd
Mm.
never seen the world, people of all cultures, backgrounds, humanity, beliefs come together to find a cause in one unified effort. And so that really kind of gave me hope for the future for our world, actually. I mean, I digress a little bit, but it was pretty scary. I think that it has changed the world forever, but also it's why we have to then appreciate our lives and see ourselves in addition outside of work and what we do for a living
Hmm.
and be balanced.
Yes, because you know how when somebody asks you and say, Oh, Dr. Gray, tell me about yourself. What's the first thing that you do? What's the first thing you say?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I'm a nurse because that's what people expect. I'm a nurse. Oh, they'll say, "Oh, what's your PhD in? It's in education. How long you been a nurse? Or what do you do? Where do you work?" I mean, they want your CV, really. They don't before they really want to. And then, unfortunately, I think people base their desire to know you based on the CV that you report.
Mm.
And I have to catch myself. There's a lot about me. I've been married for over 30 years. I'm involved in my church. I care for my mother, who's 90. And there's a lot about me. I do a lot of service work, but that I do lean into it, but it doesn't come first. I'm in the bad habit like everybody else. I'll be honest.
We're all the same. We all typically define ourselves by what we do for work, what our careers are, because I think that's just the culture that society has created.
But think about when we started, Roberta. People
Mm.
have children. The kid is 5 years old. And they ask little Josiah, Josiah, what do you want to be when you grow up? I mean, we start very early,
Mm.
right? And then, little Josiah might say, I'm gonna be a fireman, I'm gonna be a police officer. We think, oh, isn't that cute, little Josiah? And then we start giving them for Christmas doctors kits and nurses kits, and we try to start socializing them toward what we want them to do as an adult, right? And then we get
Mhm.
this kid at by the time they're like in middle school, 13 or so, then we're really putting the pressure on. So are you thinking about college? And it's just 6 years away. What are you going to do? And then we start panicking the kid by high school. You don't have your life together. What are you doing? Going to do for college? Are you working on your ACT scores? Are you working on your SAT scores? Are you looking at your GPA for college? You're not going to get into the best college to get the best career. I mean, so this goes on, and we're being trained to only see ourselves through one way, through one
Mm.
lens. And I think the real and it's hard. So then we take this into adulthood, right? We go to
Right.
school. I did all the things that I was supposed to do: work hard, go to school, get all the degrees, and if you do check all the boxes, then life will be good. But it's different now.
Mm. It certainly is. Now let's talk about the work that you do with the leaders. So you transitioned from being a nurse where you, like you mentioned earlier, held those leadership positions and you started to see a pattern. And now the work that you do since COVID with leaders, what is the first, or what should we say is the biggest challenge that they face when it comes to their culture and the wellness of their team members?
Well, I think we were talking to, I talked to individuals, for coaching around burnout, and I talked to organizations. Organizations first have to realize they often have a blind spot to how they stress the activities that they might employ that stress and burn out people. One
Mm,
example is too much change. Some they don't the rollout of some events, of some initiatives aren't always thought out well.
mm,
Then they stress their leaders. Another example is just being trauma informed in how they communicate with people, rather than saying you need to and I said and no, explain and collaborate. Often organizations stress people and traumatize workers because they minimize them, they dismiss them. They think only the person that um, is the squeaky wheel that's very effervescent is the go-getter, when you might have a very quiet person who's just as ambitious, but you don't see them
mm,
because they don't engage the way you think they should, rather than taking time out and saying, "Hey, Jeff, I noticed. Why don't you come meet me for coffee for 15 minutes? Let me do a check-in with you. Understand that leader and how you can develop them." Sometimes we don't develop people. We only see the ones that talk loud. We don't understand how, and the loudest mouth is not the smartest person. They're just the loudest mouth.
no, not necessarily. You know what they say about empty vessels.
Yeah. Right? And
Right.
so I think you have to help people understand, leaders must understand that The whole world, in the United States, our Center for Disease Control has said that estimates that over 67% of all Americans have had at least one adverse childhood experience. That's one, experience of violence in the community, parent being sick, divorce, poverty, housing insecurity. There's some, and now you add COVID and everyone's had some kind of trauma. Well, you have to realize that people don't drop their trauma and themselves at the door when they come to work. They bring their whole selves. So we want to be sensitive to be trauma informed and kind in our conversations and soften, be less apt to judge people and
Mm.
to really try to develop the skills in everyone so that everyone is seen.
Yes, let's just zoom in on that communication piece a little bit. You touched on a very good point, which is we always have this impression typically that extroverted people who just talk loud, they are the ones who get the attention, obviously. Because, if you're a leader and there's someone in your team who's introverted who hardly says much, we tend to think that they don't have much to say or something of value to contribute to the team
Mm-hmm.
meeting. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why some leaders will not go to the extent of saying, "Hey, Melanie, do you have a thought on this?" And they just think, "Oh, Melanie's quiet. Everybody knows Melanie's quiet," and they just walk away. But you find that sometimes those introverted ones, first of all, their listening is usually much, much better than some of the talkative
Mm-hmm.
ones. And therefore, you find that they're busy processing. And if you actually just nudge them a little bit and say, "Hey, what do you think?" they might come up with a very brilliant idea.
Oh, definitely, because leaders must understand that they're not always the smartest person in the room. You have to be okay with that
Yeah.
if you're a good leader and if you really want to lead. If you want to lead, and leading isn't just that you meet all your goals and KPIs and get your bonuses, it's that you see your team
Mm-hmm.
and that you value everyone and seek to uplift everyone. There's a couple things I see leaders do. Is one, as we have just discussed, they think the loudest voice gets the most attention. We also minimize the person who maybe just likes what they do and they want life balance and they understand that to rise the corporate ladder means they don't get some time with their family and they're content and happy with what they do. We don't treat those people well all the time. We just assume there's something wrong with them. They're not motivated. They've been in that position 5 years. They should be trying to do something different. And some organizations do have cultures like that, which I don't think is healthy. But if a person is in the same role for 3 to 5 years and they're dismissed, and they're not up for the next thing, they're pretty much dismissed.
Do they even have a conversation with that person, or they just assume, "Oh, she's not ambitious"?
Well, it depends on the culture. I mean, and how the cultures really dictate how leaders lead, right? And and,
Mm.
and what considered established norms in that organization. But I think that leaders must and organizations must take uh, a pause and consider how they're treating everyone because good talent is hard to find and the cost of
Yes.
replacing someone is 52 or over $100,000
Because you
depending on the
must train a
organization.
new person every time. Yes.
It's
Because
costly.
you are so right. Some of us don't want to be directors or VPs. If we are content, and like you said, because depending on the level on the corporate ladder where you are, that will determine if you get emails and phone calls after hours. And some people want to just spend time with their families after hours. They don't want emails and phone calls. So they're thinking, "You know what? I don't want to climb that high because when I come home, I want everything to be off and focus on playing with my kids."
hmm And you should have that right, and that should be celebrated.
Mm.
Also, there are different times in your life. No one has to tell you all their business, but let's consider how many employees are also taking care of their parents because our parents are living longer. I've been
Hmm.
taking care of my mother. My mother's 90, but I've been taking care of her for 20 years at least,
Right.
right? And so that for me did influence how I lived or how I directed the later years of my career, where I might have wanted to ascend, but I said I can't do that and take care of her. And I took care of my uncle too, who was 91.
Mm-hmm. And so, as a leader, do you listen to this conversation with Dr. Gray and think she's not taking into account the fact that we need to be productive and, the businesses to make a profit?
Oh, yeah, you have to look. We need our organizations to survive and thrive so that everyone can get their check. It's not being sensitive and kind and being aware does not mean that you're dismissing the fact that accountabilities have to be made and metrics have to be met and profit, those things have to happen. But it doesn't mean they have to happen without humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Without what does it take to say good morning? What does it take to have a, even if you're working virtually, to have a virtual huddle? Hey, you guys, I just wanted to have a virtual huddle this morning. I know that, the gas prices are rising. This might be impacting your your bottom line. What can think out what we can do to, I want you to know I'm aware of it. I'm sensitive to it. It's hard on all of us, and we do care. We might be limited as an organization in what we can do, but I want you to know we care. And hey, maybe we'll have a potluck, and let's have a a coffee, a Zoom coffee or something, and just share our ideas, couponing, or just vent, just be a community. And we do care. What does it take to do that? If you're working face to face, what does it take to say, hey, if y'all anyone who's interested, let's have a potluck lunch and kind of maybe and have a coupon clutch,
Mm,
coupon swap or something, just for fun, just something to humanize and be sensitive to what people are experiencing.
right. And if any leader is listening and they think, okay, Dr. Gray, I'm ready to take care of my team members because I know they're going through a lot. Does that mean I give them, gift cards for a spa once a month, or how does this wellness thing work?
Well, whatever an organization starts, they have to have the commitment to see it through. So what I do never, if you can't continue gift cards forever so that everyone has a chance to get one, don't give them. But people don't just need a gift card, they just need the awareness and the communication that you care and that you see them. Wellness is more than yoga, is more than just we're gonna have salad, offer have a salad bar in the lunchroom. It's creating a culture where you encourage people to use their paid time off without
Mm,
punishment. That they can use their PTO without anyone emailing them or texting them. That we encourage people, if their companies have it, to use their employee assistance programs. Where we have a culture where we have maybe on Fridays we stop all meetings afternoon after 12 p.m. so people can clean out their email and leave on time for the weekend.
mm,
Maybe we'll on Mondays not start any meetings until noon so people can come in and catch up on priorities. Maybe we will say we'll try to limit the number of meeting blocks, in a day so that people, after 1 o'clock so people can actually get their actual work done because sometimes we pack them so tight with meetings they can't actually do their work. Perhaps we'll have a schedule we'll encourage a schedule where supervisors, managers, directors can actually have time to do one-on-ones and connect with their team members. Sometimes we only connect with people during annual review. And then in some
mhm.
cases, in some companies, those are a joke because it's just, I don't know, wait, did you show up? Okay, check, check, check. We've got to make things real and
Not much
meaningful.
informing that review now, does it? Because
Mm,
you haven't had a conversation with this person with for 5 or 11
no.
months, depending.
And people will say, well, I don't know why they reviewed me. They never saw me.
What
They don't
exactly
know
are
what
they
I actually,
writing on that review?
yeah, but so I
Hmm.
think we have to make experiences real and meaningful
Mhm.
for people. People don't, and it's not just money. that people stay for. They stay for community, they stay for value, they stay often because they want, some people want a balance. They want to find a place where they can have balance because you live, in my opinion, Roberta, you work to live, you don't live to work. You want
I
to
wish that
foster
was
an
universal.
environment. Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
want to foster an environment where people say, "Hey, I might want to take a sewing class," and they can go do it. You foster an environment people can go volunteer and do
Mm-hmm.
more than just work.
I wish for that. And as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Gray, that I did live in the States for 5 years. Back in South Africa, first of all, what shocked me about America was the fact that my country pays 4 months maternity leave if a woman has had a baby.
How many months
Four, four
for
months
a
after
woman
the
after you
baby.
have a baby? We get 12 weeks on average. 12 weeks.
4 months, which would be then 16 weeks for us,
Hmm. Hmm.
paid maternity leave. And then secondly, um, when it comes to corporate, I don't know how it is in other industries, but mostly corporate, you get your first year, I remember it was 20 days per year.
Two
Uh,
weeks. That's it. Oh, 2 weeks. Only two.
20
Most
day,
jobs only give
20
you 2 weeks
working days, which is a full month. And
for
I
your first
remember,
year.
yes, and I remember that because if you spend the whole year not using your PTO, the company will say, back then they used to pay you an extra paycheck for the fact that in a month you have about 20 working days. So if you
Girl,
don't use
sign
them
me
at
up.
all, you have this extra month, so to speak. But now, because they don't want to pay anymore, they force you. Like I remember when my sister came to visit me in Chicago, and she had days left. They forced it. They said, you don't come back here until you've exhausted your, because they don't want to pay anymore. But the fact remains that that time off, you have to have that time off and you have to take it.
You should be able to rejuvenate yourself, but you should
Mm,
have a schedule that supports your taking it. People don't take it often because they don't, the job doesn't allow it. Well, I'm going to have to they're going to text me anyway. They're going to email me anyway. I'm not going to take my paid time off and answer email, right? If they're going
mm.
to be emailing me anyway. So I think that we have to have cultures that really support, let people be off. When you're away, you're away.
But
And they
also,
should be,
just on that instance, Dr. Gray, sorry to interrupt you.
that's okay.
If I get emailed during my time off, do none of my colleagues really don't have an idea of what to do in my absence? Is that even realistic?
It's not, but so again, people, we have to have cultures where there's honest, real accountability and not fear. I think that often happens when people are afraid to make a decision, they're afraid to step out. It's because you as a leader have not really given them license. So you have to realize, how are you empowering your team or are you micromanaging? Now, micromanagement and hypervigilance is another form of burnout.
Mm.
That's a sign of burnout.
Hmm. Because seriously, I cannot think realistically that there's so much that I'm an expert on that no one else in the office knows. And so if I leave, they must email me, otherwise nothing happens on the project. That's just not
It's not,
remarkable.
but leaders, we create those cultures.
Hmm.
We create that. Sometimes, we teach people how to treat us in life, and we
Right.
teach people how to treat us and engage with us at work. So if that's happening, you have to ask yourself why. What have I done to create this? What can I change?
Hmm. The onus is on the leader to ask those types of questions.
Mhm.
Now, one last thing. So, if any leader, first of all, let's talk about professionals. If they are listening, what if they feel burnt out? What is it that they can do starting today?
Starting today, you can stop. If you notice that you're burned out, you need to stop and scan your body. You have to say, what is happening? Do I find myself being hypervigilant? Is my neck tight and sore? Am I not sleeping well? Am I gaining weight? When I look in the mirror, do I like what I see?
Mm,
And if you don't, then you have to tell yourself the truth about your situation. Is it me and work overworking Do I need to take some time off? Is this job not a good fit for me anymore? Sometimes we have to plan a pivot. Not that we just abruptly quit, because we know you have to meet your bills and that. But
Of
you
course.
need to make another plan. And then you have to own your change and own your no.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to prioritize yourself. You have to be willing to, which all comes to stop. S.T.O.P. Scan, tell yourself the truth. Uh, be be willing to own what you need to change and to prioritize yourself, because you are accountable for your own life, right? Your job isn't, and things do change, and we change.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Let's
have to be willing to change how we work at work, or change sometimes where we work. And that's okay.
right. Yes. Let's do the STOP acronym again. I love that.
Scan.
Scan.
Tell yourself the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Own your truth. I need to make some changes.
Mm-hmm.
And then prioritize. Make yourself a priority and put yourself on your calendar. That means I'm putting myself on my calendar to check out of work at 5 o'clock or whatever the time is. I'm
Right.
putting my walk on my calendar, my um, exercise on my calendar, my sewing class on my calendar. I'm prioritizing me, my family. I'm going to do such and such with my significant other. You have to create a life. People have to create a life. And I'm just going to say, and scrolling is not a life. That's just the other
No,
thing.
no,
Scrolling
it's
is not a
not.
life. It's other folks' lives.
Right. I absolutely love that. Prioritize yourself. You know how even when they talk about finances, they say, you're the one working, pay yourself first. But how often do we do that?
Well, I know it's a habit, right? I think you build certain behaviors into your life
Mm,
style. You have to build them in
right. Now let's
and
talk
and make
about
them stick.
leaders. Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Gray.
And make them stick.
Make them stick. That's right. Let's talk about leaders. How can they create a culture? We've spoken about what some of the challenges are. So then, how can they create this culture that is taking care of its team members, that there's communication, that everybody feels seen?
Well, it starts from the top. So there are two lenses there. There's the broader organizational lens, where the executive leaders are committed to the best for their people. And it takes 3 to 5 years to actually change behaviors
Hmm.
and change cultures. So it takes a real commitment from the organization. But if your organization from the executive side is not there, doesn't mean that you as a individual leader cannot formulate ways to check in with your team and to validate your team and see the human beings that are under your span of control. And it could be as simple as doing a check-in at the beginning of your meetings, trying to get, based on the size of your team, uh, a one-on-one for 15, 20 minutes at least every quarter with your team, or you block out a day in your month where all you do is check in with people. It could be that you have a Dropbox where people can just write you personally their concerns, so it doesn't just end up in your work email. It might put it in a Dropbox that's just for you and your communication with those individuals. So you have to be creative, and you have to want it. So one is the organizational commitment from the executive level that they're willing to drill down into their organization, and then it's the individual leader making that commitment to the people that they serve.
Absolutely. Words of wisdom from Dr. Melanie Gray, the registered nurse, educator, and expert in trauma informed leadership. This has been such an eye opening conversation, and I'm sure that most professionals and leaders will benefit so much from your wisdom, Dr. Gray. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, Roberta, thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Before you go, where can our listeners and viewers reach you?
They can reach me at drmelaniegray.com. That's Dr. Melanie, Melanie, Gray, Gray.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Melanie Gray, PhD from Wisconsin. Yay!
Yes, the cheese state,
Yes,
drmelaniegray.com. Thank you so much,
yes.
Dr. Gray. I've enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Roberta. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify, and stay tuned for more episodes to come.